All right, we're live. We're back. What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. This is the Sunny Ray Show. Today, I'm with Emmanuel. Did I say your name correctly, Emmanuel?
Oh, yes, thanks,
Okay,
Sunny.
awesome.
Hey, Manuel.
Cool. Where in the world are you zapping in from?
I'm in Zurich, so I'm Swiss and always here, but traveling quite a lot, Sunny, as you
I
might know.
bet. I bet. Cool. So, do you want to kick us off in terms of Future Wave? What is it? Do you want to share a little bit about what you guys are working on there?
Amazing. Yes, with pleasure. Future Wave essentially is now a 3 years old story, and everything was born with the idea of changing the way of private equity growth capital specifically was done, and we engineered a new model. This is Future Wave today, and yeah, we are an emerging asset manager de facto. So we have a free jurisdiction, right? We are operating in, and our credo is really on value creation for infra projects and technologies.
Got it. Super interesting. So again, like I said, I like to, obviously talk about companies and making money and investing and all that stuff. But to me, the most important is obviously the person, right? Kind of without being able to connect with that person, it's hard to do business or for the audience to connect. So take me back to growing up in, is it Ticino? Is that where you grew up?
Oh yes, yes, that's
So,
a
so
very tiny region
what
in
was the
the
world
Swiss.
like for a kid, who would, end up structuring 100 million euro funds across continents? Like, what was your childhood like?
Well, I was traveling already, so nothing new. But yes, Ticino is essentially the Italian part of Switzerland, so it's very tiny. Only 7% of the Swiss population lives there. But now I'm in Zurich now for 10 years, pretty much. Yeah.
So you studied public management and policy, right, at the University of, how do you pronounce it, Lausanne? So not finance or business. What pulled you towards the public side first?
As you can see, there is already a certain overlap with infrastructure projects because there is a little bit of overlap actually with the public sector, right? So actually, I did public management policies, right? Public finance too. That was really at the master, and yeah, that was in Lausanne. That's the right pronunciation, Sunny. So
Mm.
that's in the French part. Look, this master program was. I think very, very nice for me. I got many different knowledge, but also analytical skills, I will say, and eventually blossom, if you like, later on in my first job, right, in a bank. That was possibly the first job, and then I took a CFA, but internally, and that's where the finance part actually got matured, and also a PMP. And I would say with those formation at the time, I was a Credit Suisse, yeah. So the time was a much different so, company, I guess, in the recent years, right? And it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago now, right?
Oh wow.
So I would say, yeah.
So,
So
so Switzerland sits in this interesting place, right? You got banks, family offices, and SDGs all sharing kind of like the same square kilometer. How did that shape how you think about money?
all right, that's quite a good question. Obviously, in Switzerland, we are a tiny country, but obviously, finance and was always one of the probably the top industry, right? Possibly healthcare is the other one, but it's now I think embedded in society culture, right? And things have changed, right? Changing all the time. In the little Lugano that is my hometown, when I was doing my studies, I think we had any major global bank, right? Now it's much different, right? So it's a very different reality. We experience a lot of well managers, multifamily offices, we call them here, which actually replace a little bit some of the major private banks, right? And now we have this digitalization also in the wealth industry, which is quite significant, I will say, right? So.
And what was your first real job, and what did it like teach you? I guess that no degree could have.
Well, in terms of job, I was essentially advising. Funny enough, I was advising on divesting rather than investing. Again, times always change, right? And that was during my Credit Suisse time, right? And I must say that was very strong for my mentees. Learned quite a lot, right? And after that, I went practically directly in PE growth. Actually, I touched pretty much all the stages. At the very beginning was really post incubation, I will say, and then really going into growth capital. Yeah, before starting Future Wave. So there was. So I used to have a lot of clients, usually families, usually corporates also, maybe the companies of those families wanted to invest into specific themes, sector geographies, and eventually we were doing this on their behalf. Sometimes also on our own, right? So that and that was always in a value creation perspective, and that was something that I think shaped quite a lot what Future Wave is today, Sunny, as well, right? We really like to look at the asset, trying to think, if we are the right partner for them, right? If we have no this match, we are not going further. That's very, very much the case, honey.
Interesting. So I was going to ask you about. So you. Who are the people like early on in your career that saw something in you before you saw it in yourself?
Oh, also interesting. I think that one of after my banking experience, right? There eventually the mandate ended, but I think here I shaped quite a lot the overall strategy and the allocation of this firm, and I remember that. Somehow I shaped that too much, right? There was possibly some of the managers that were even you're undomable, right? You are, There was definitely something interesting, and that was really before going into growth. So we had a portfolio of 5 companies, pretty much, Sunny, and with some of them we were really working with them every day, practically. Yeah, so that's. And I think that they look at in me quite somebody that could really help on many things. And again, that was really thanks to the formation, right, that I had at Credit Suisse, I must say.
Interesting. So if you could send, I guess, like one piece of advice back to the 22-year-old Emmanuel finishing his master's, what would it be?
Oh, well, I was 24, but it's not like in US, right? But, wow, that's a very interesting piece of advice, I think. Probably just look for the very long term, right? At the beginning, I was just focusing more midterm, short term, right? Also building up my profile, if you like. Now, obviously, you think as an entrepreneur, so you really want to build value that lasts. So, looking back, I think already having this mindset would I would probably have this shift earlier on, actually, from
Yeah.
employee
So
to.
so was there like a deal or like a person or a moment when you just like decided that like you flipped from advisor to principal, like from analyzing capital to deploying it, essentially?
Look, I would say, my that moment, this tipping point was when I realized that I could not do entirely what I wanted. Right, there was always politics around, Europe, I think, and at a certain point, I actually, that was really inside me. I want to do that, and I have a buyer here. So I started, I took some time in solitude, right? And eventually I come up with essentially my business plan, and it was good enough because in that specific time, also other people which are currently the partners of this new venture, believed in this, right? And they helped me co-shaping, right? So, that's very important in a new company, right? The people that you have around, you work 16 hours a day, you might want to have the right people to, to go in a journey of the kind together.
That's lovely. So you built Epic Ad Ventures as your own like shop in Lugano. So why go independent instead of climbing a bigger firm?
Well, I always was partnering, right? After Credit Suisse, right? I always partnered, right?
Mm.
So I needed to have my independent venture activity where I could eventually also deploy my. At the time, I was a little bit too less cautious, right? And I was doing also my venture investments myself. Completely in other sectors, just to have a little bit of differentiation. So there was, I think, 3 times, 4 times in healthcare. One returned, one disappeared, the other one ran away, and then unfortunately the other one, still a very good company, is a little bit blocked now, as far as I know, because they have to move elsewhere. But so far this portfolio is in positive, because he returned more than invested. But so I always had this, a partnership approach, right? So already back then, right, I realized that I needed that, and this is, I think, is the ultimate result, having practically future wave.
So impact investing has a bit of a credibility problem, right? So a lot of it is theater. When did you realize that smart infrastructure thesis was different and that you could actually price the impact?
Look, you can say that, right? I remember 2017. I was in Davos, so it was actually my first Davos, and there here it was also about SDGs, right? And there was the literacy at the time was so low, right? I remember people say SDG, what? Right? So they were not really getting. And at the time, I was very much exposed actually into sustainable businesses, or even impact per se, right? So obviously there was an hype. There was, I think, those years, right, till 2019. We did a lot of good business, Africa also, plastic recycling, you name it, right? We were very, very much exposed there. And now, as you see, is a little bit inflated, I would say, right? Obviously, I think that many funds, specifically of the time, they were simply unable to deliver on returns, on financial returns, because half of the time was actually delivered into do reporting, right, assessment, SDGs, etc. In fact, here we have Article 8 or 9, right? Those are, in my opinion, not that easy play, right? Because eventually you have all requirements, right? So for me, look, today, you can still do good impact on people, society, the community, really doing good returns, but possibly maintaining also something more solid, which is possibly either a tech play, right, for venture capitalists, or maybe something more solid like infrastructure or businesses in the supply chain of infrastructure, which is what we do at Future Wave.
Very cool. So can you tell me about a deal that you walked away from that you still think about, and like what did that teach you?
Oh yeah, obviously no names, nothing, but business are made of people, right? And it's good to be stubborn, right? In certain things, but when there is always resistance, right, from the management, I think that is really the killer. Sometimes you can see so good technology, also good execution, right? But then, simply, having the human fit, so to say, right? That, and not talking about me, right? Just commenting what I see happening. There was, and actually, it's not just one. Actually, saw it a couple of times, must say. Either the investment manager, either the company CEO, right? There are always those dynamics, right? And if you have a fit, then it's good, right? I think it starts with that. So people, and then you go into business, right? You go into development. I'm a fan of supporting projects and companies in going into other markets, making joint ventures, establishing presence, etc. Right? So that's, I think, if we can execute on that, right, and those CEOs are also supporting, then it's just a good match for us.
Was there a moment where you realized the UN 2030 agenda wasn't just a policy document, that it was essentially like a deal flow map?
Oh, yeah. I would say here in Europe, we are quite developed on that, right? Yeah, specifically, with the von der Leyen policies, right, that we had, right? There was obviously a big push. And there are many portals even, right, that actually track down also those companies, right? Which is good, right? If you have a top-down approach in screening companies, right, and then you want to also map them and rank them from that perspective, I think there is quite a lot of data you might want to see. But again, one might say, look, what comes first, the impact to the planet, the impact to the people, or the financial impact, right? Because, in my opinion, if you don't have financial return, the other two are quite difficult to achieve. So there is sort of a hierarchy, right? Because obviously, if you have to keep subsidizing a business, you might have some externalities, right? So somehow, the business has to be sustainable. And obviously, look in those maps, right? In those, you might have some good data that can lead you to already have a pre-assessment, right? But definitely, it's good. It's good. There are many things that have been shaped in the right way. Oh, Sani, I think you're muted.
Oh, my bad. What's the hardest lesson that you've learned about raising capital that nobody teaches you in business school?
Okay. All right. Look, it's in my opinion, it's the hardest job to do. So sometimes I know there are people actually asking advisors not to be just to work on commissions. I mean, there is a lot to be done here, right? So it's not just who you are, what you did, right, or the connection that you have, or the quality of the deal. It's an entire follow-up to be done, right? Obviously, look, today on topic is the deal to be in, right? So that's not that difficult compared to, right? But raising capital is tough. And again, to me, it's the hardest job ever. So
FutureWave just structured 100 million euros pipeline across the EU, right? And a second fund in Saudi Arabia. Can you walk me through why those two geographies and why now?
Right. Let's start with a little bit of context. Look, we like to have businesses that do not have political dependencies, right? But somehow can benefit, right, of positive regulatory environments, right? So the public affair piece in what we do is very key, right? It's very core. And so we like to talk to governments, right? Explore also possibilities of growing those companies or projects together with available measures, right? And therefore, also within our team, we have some people that are obviously publicly exposed in that sense, right? So for us, things materialize, right? Also around those macro trends, right? Or policy driven, right? The Saudi plan, as an example, is very much around the 230, etc. agenda of the kingdom. And here now we are essentially establishing a joint venture locally and promoting an independent fund that is really in agri-technology as an example, and project. Water is also another theme there. And then in Europe instead, we have, I would say, to reprioritize few things, but we are operating on two platforms. One is active, is in Liechtenstein, not far from where we are. So this is European Economic Area. And then we are going to have Malta later this year, where we are going to do more businesses than projects in infrastructure. So that can be, a company active, in green building, maybe materials, right? What we like to see is, strong balance sheets, right? Companies that, clear path to profitability. We can stay there for 5 years. And also we can have a clear impact with our own activity, right? With our own support. There is a lot of marketing, I guess, right? Being active, for us, we always bring a C-level, right? So that's kind of the idea that we have. Obviously, we are not big, right? But that's what we like to do. So the fewer, the better, right?
So you define smart infrastructure as real assets, right? Plus digital solutions across energy, buildings, and mobility. Where do you see the biggest mispricing today, and what's kind of like hiding in plain sight?
Oh yeah, indeed. Look, there is a lot of, in my opinion, right? Many inflated companies out there, specifically in the tech standalone. Today, we think that there are two macro trends nobody can really avoid. One is AI is shaping everything, right? The way that we look at deals, the way that we look at value creation as well now. And also you have the almost legacy now, right? So with those two factors, right, we want to have an additional layer of security. What I meant by a strong balance.
What's the second thing you said? You said AI. What's the second thing you said?
Oh, that is the Hormuz legacy now, the Strait of Hormuz. What is going
Oh,
to
okay,
happen?
okay. That's what I thought you said. Okay. Yeah, continue.
So yeah, I mean, those are two major trends, disruptive in certain extent. So for us, either you go very early on, very niche also, and that's the AI play. We are not necessarily the right player here. Or you want to have an additional layer of security, and that comes really with strong balance sheet. It does not necessarily have to have a real asset, but playing around that is key, because then it comes governmental support, it comes different type of security, I will say, in your inflows, right? So for us, we really see ourselves as somebody that wants to bring growth, right? Early growth to growth at PE level.
Interesting. So critical infrastructure used to mean roads and bridges, right? But now it means data centers, edge compute, and battery storage. How do you decide what counts as infra in 2026?
Right. Very interesting. Look, starting back with the Saudi plan that we have, that's clearly water, right? Agriculture. They are importing a lot of food. So this really starts with the scarcity. Now you mentioned data centers. There's a lot of demand. I'm still personally not sure if the supply is that scarce, but one might argue on that, Sonny. But so it really starts with demand. So stay in macro trends, obviously, is a benefit. Yeah.
Super cool. So Saudi Arabia is is a polarizing place to put capital, right? So what does Riyadh see right now that European LPs are still missing?
Oh, well, look, it's very different doing business there. It's really, last year we traveled there sometimes. This year again, so it's really different dynamics, I will say. Obviously, there is different magnitude in firepower allocation capacity now, which is we are a little bit drier, right? They might not have the water, right? But they certainly have this type of oil as well, right? So there are different dynamics, and here is very, very institutionalized. There is a little bit different, right? It's still way more on the relationship, which is something that we value quite a lot.
Interesting. So Bitcoin miners are becoming the world's most aggressive buyers, right, of stranded energy and modular data center capacity. Has that crossed your desk yet? And like, what's your read on that?
Oh yeah, there is obviously a clear overlap, right, with the two the two type of asset. In data centers now, look, we are looking at specifically development, right, and the AI components, so the mining capacity, if you look at that way, right, is also something that is there in many, right. Personally, look, obviously you do a little bit of crypto, right, for whatever reason, right, but I'm not really a fan of it. I try to stay true to infrastructure and what I know well.
Got it. So maybe help me land the plane. So 5 years out, if Future Wave is a clear winner, what does that picture look like? DPI, geography, and like what got built?
Right. Well, look, that depends on the strategy, right? We still have, proprietary and non-proprietary strategies in what we do. And obviously here, look, the idea is to really have something balanced also, right, in terms of risk return, right? So we are not really going for VC returns in that sense, right? So it's definitely something above infra, right? But still where we can have this value plus, right, coming actually from the PE activity that we can do. So obviously, look, the vision of this firm is to become the to-go place, right, for infrastructure business investments, and we are working hard on that. Yeah, Sunny.
Well, that sounds like it. Well, Emmanuel, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, and then Emmanuel, maybe just leave people with, where they can learn more. What's the website? And also, are you, I don't know, do you blog on LinkedIn, or where can people kind of double click on yourself?
Yeah, must say to the audience that till a few months back, we didn't really want to appear much, right? But now, obviously, we had to put together a website. So this is futurewave.ltd. And yes, you can find us in LinkedIn as well. So please connect. We always happy to interact with cool people.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. With that, we'll bring this one to a close. Emmanuel, just hang up for 1 second. Until next time, everyone. Bye bye.